lead your clients, right? Too many realtors kowtow to whatever their client wants, or even worse, not even their client, right? I get buyer's agents all the time who say, oh, can we do that inspection Thursday at 4:30 p.m. because the seller's tenant, what? Who cares what the seller's tenant wants? Are you serious about selling the house or what? You know what I mean?
Welcome to Real Hits of Real Estate, where Southwest Florida's real estate market meets local flavor. If you love real estate, local discoveries, and learning how to make smart moves while living the Southwest Florida lifestyle, you're in the right place. All right. Hi there. Today, I'm excited to welcome Todd Riley today to the podcast. Hi, Todd. How are you?
Doing great. Yourself?
Good. Thanks for asking. I'm excited to have you here.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Great. Todd Riley, he's a Florida native, Marine Corps veteran, and the founder of Sherlock Homes Inspections. He's leveraging a diverse background and security, sales, and the mortgage industry. He established his company to provide comprehensive residential, commercial, and vacant land inspections throughout Florida. Recognized as an industry leader, his team of state licensed and intern NACHI certified inspectors exceeds standard industry practice. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start with your journey, Todd. And so, as a Florida native and Marine Corps veteran, thank you again for your service.
Certainly.
That's really awesome. How long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years, 1 month, and 12 days.
To be exact. Wonderful. What was your reasoning of going into the Marines?
I was, it's funny. We moved down here to Fort Myers, Florida. I was born and raised in Florida, but I did live in New York a couple years, Michigan a couple years, moved back down here for high school. And I was a little bit late for the school year. And so I was trying to pick out some of my electives, and the guidance counselor said, hey, what about this ROTC class? And I was like, what is that? And I thought, okay, yeah, whatever, let's do that. And I kind of liked it. But then when I went to talk to recruiters, there was no doubt Marine Corps for me, for sure.
Nice. Very cool. So you lived in Michigan for a little bit.
Yeah, a few years in Gaylord, Michigan, and middle school.
No way. I'm from Michigan. I'm a native of Michigan.
Yeah.
And grew up, and close to Gaylord, a small little town called Sterling, Michigan. So
Yeah, I know Sterling Heights fairly well.
Well, actually, it's not Sterling Heights. There's a
Oh,
small
okay.
little village called Sterling.
Oh, gotcha.
It's outside of Standish and by West Branch.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what that is, but anyways, small town. That's wonderful. I actually took an ROTC class in college.
Oh, did
That
you?
was a lot of fun. Yeah. So anyways, but getting back to you, how did your military background shape your approach to launching Sherlock Homes Inspections?
Quite honestly, it didn't. It was just kind of I saw a need, and decided to fill it. I started Sherlock Home Inspections in 2009, basically after everything crashed and crumbled in the '08 housing decline. And I interviewed with a guy that owned a real estate company who wanted to start a home inspection company, and he already owned a title company and a couple other businesses that kind of supported his real estate business, and he was thinking about starting that. And I dug up a bunch of notes from college on how to write a business plan and all this stuff, and put the whole thing together from A to Z, and sat down with him and tried to sell him on it. I thought I did a pretty good job, but he didn't want to pay me what I thought I was worth. And when I left there, kind of, I was super excited about it. I had the whole thing. I mean, I did a ton of research and a bunch of work putting this business plan together. And when he hit me with the dollar amounts that he was looking at, I said, well, I'd already sold myself at that point. So I got a hold of a buddy from high school who was a
Hmm.
certified building contractor. And I said, hey, let's do this. And that's kind of
Very
what
nice.
started the whole process. Then once I got established in Lee County, I just duplicated that same process throughout several other counties throughout Florida. And now we're in 36 counties
Oh, wow. Okay. So
on our
what
way to
other
statewide.
counties? Okay. So you go to Port Charlotte, that's Charlotte County, and Collin
Yeah,
County around here.
36 is almost half. We basically cover Gainesville to Daytona and south, except the Keys. The
Okay.
Keys are a little funky because it's from the north end of the Keys to Key West. It's 3 hours by itself. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's an area where the locals can do the home inspections there, and I don't know if we'll ever cover that area, to be honest.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a pretty big area anyway, so
It is. I mean,
that's
it's
wonderful.
it's small, but it's long, you know.
Yeah. So since this show is about local gems, what makes Southwest Florida community the perfect place to run your business?
Uh, for me, it's the perfect place to live, and so therefore that's where you run your business. You know, I mean,
Right?
I told my wife before we got married, you know, we can have fun and go on vacations up north, but if you want to live north of the state line, find a different guy. I'm a Floridian. That's where I'll be. I'm not big, and luckily, you know, she agreed. You know, our favorite vacations, which might sound kind of weird to some folks, but and we do like going up north from time to time. And there was a while there for several years where we would swing up north just far enough to see snow, kind of between Christmas and New Year's. Um, but our favorite vacations are the Caribbean. Um, so yeah, this is a great place to live, and that's why it's a great place to run a business. There's all kinds of other answers I could give as far as you know, Florida doesn't have an income tax and that kind of stuff, but the
Mm-hmm.
simple
Mm-hmm.
simple fact is this is where you want to be.
Yeah, well, I agree. Obviously, so,
So you're here,
been
right?
here. Exactly. I've been here. Oh, 16 years as of beginning of May. So yeah, time goes too fast, too fast.
That's why.
You emphasize the importance of working with folks who know what they're doing, what truly sets a certified inspector apart from the rest.
There's plenty of people. There's not a huge barrier to entry into the home inspection business, the home inspection industry. Much like real estate, we get our license from the same place, the Division of Business and Professional Regulation. Certainly, you've got to take the continuing education courses. You got to know what you're doing. Um,
Hmm.
but that's the minimum standard, right? I mean,
Sure.
literally anything less is illegal, right? So, um, so just because somebody got a license, just because they take their continuing education, doesn't mean they know what they're doing. I mean, I'm sure you
Right.
know the numbers with real estate. Um, the majority of folks that hold the license don't necessarily sell homes. And that's the same thing
Hmm.
with home inspectors. A lot of these guys, it's a part-time gig. It's something to do rather than, you know, twiddling their thumbs or hitting the golf links. You know, they're retired or semi-retired, and this
Yeah.
is a side hustle for them, you know.
Sure.
And
Yep.
those folks aren't fun to work with. Um,
Hmm.
they miss things. I mean, we do peer review inspections from time to time when a customer, a client, um, thinks that, you know, maybe the home inspector they hired didn't do such a great job. And we find all kinds of mistakes and problems and errors
Mm.
and that kind of thing. And I mean, I'm on the message boards and the chat rooms and the industry blogs and that kind of thing. And I see what's going on throughout the industry and even, um, especially Florida. It's something that most everyone should know. It's common sense stuff. I mean, read it
Yeah.
and there's your answer, you know, and just some of the stuff is just downright silly.
Yeah. So you're talking about what critical areas you inspect that others miss. Can you name a few?
There's there's a lot of areas that we inspect that most inspectors don't. And there's also several procedures we conduct and several tools that we use that a lot of inspectors don't, or if they do, they charge extra. For example, we inspect pool deck, pool enclosure, all the pool equipment. If it's waterfront property, we inspect the seawall, dock, and boat lift. If it's on well water, we inspect the well equipment. We do air quality inspections, water quality inspections. But besides that, just in a standard home buyer's inspection, a lot of inspectors pride themselves on not moving things out of the way. And certainly we're not going to clear a whole garage full of junk to get to your main electric panel. But we're not going to say, oh, there's a ladder there, I'm not touching it. That's silly. Some inspectors don't climb ladders. Obviously, we use ladders. But yeah, we inspect irrigation system. We do a pest inspection. We do an infrared scan of the property. We do include aesthetic issues and minor imperfections that most inspectors ignore. We include all the appliances. So there's a lot of area. And then when it comes to the tools, we use not just a camera and a ladder. We're using infrared cameras, laser thermometers, all kinds of things like that, so that we can get a complete picture of the house that these folks are buying, or if they're inspecting it for insurance or whatever.
That's awesome. And that's included in the standard home inspection. That's not
Correct.
an
Yeah.
additional cost.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't, I wouldn't sleep well at night if I had a tool in my tool bag and said, I'm not using it unless you pay me more. That's silly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You've got it, use it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's really neat when I've been with some of your inspectors and watching them use the tools and everything. It's like, man, I want one.
Right.
So what is the secret about the home inspection industry that most buyers and agents don't realize?
There's a couple. I would say the two big dirty little secrets in our industry. Number one, there's a lot of home inspectors who will nitpick a house trying to find a reason for it to fail a 4-point inspection, just so they can charge you to go back out there and inspect it again. We don't play those kind of games. Obviously, if there's something that can't be overlooked, if there's something that has to be corrected, then we're going to tell folks, look, get it fixed within the next 30 days. Show me proof of repairs. We'll update the report for free. So we're not looking for a reason to fail you on a 4-point inspection, because if it does, we're going to update the report for free anyway. We're not charging a second time to go back out there. The other big thing that I said something about 2 years ago, but it just came in the news because one of these home inspection software companies got brought to light, so to speak, that they were sharing clients' information and realtors' information. So there's a couple of the home inspection software companies are probably the biggest, but there's also other companies that are kind of tied to these home inspection companies, where they're sharing and selling buyers and realtors information to folks that want to sell things to new home buyers and realtors. So home warranty companies, there's some home inspectors offer an estimate for repairs, and it's a repair estimate software. There's companies that do, you got to register and everything and put in make, model, serial number to see if there was a recall on your appliances. All of these companies is just an excuse to grab your data and sell it or share it on other sites.
How does understanding these behind the scenes secrets directly protect a buyer's real estate investment?
Well, it's not really going to protect their real estate investment, so to speak, but knowing these things, you can choose an inspector that doesn't use these companies that share and sell your information, that doesn't look for a reason to fail you on a 4-point just so they can charge you a second time. So when you're interviewing home inspectors, ask them those things,
Yeah, it's also too, if there's something wrong with the house and it's not passing the 4-point, it's good to point out those items that need to be fixed. So
Right.
either the buyer can negotiate with the seller to get those, things repaired or negotiated and, to have it done.
Yeah, there's a couple ways we do that. If we're doing a 4-point inspection period, then okay, we go ahead and do that. We tell you what needs to be corrected, and you send us repairs, and we'll update the report for free. If we're doing a standard home inspection, is if there's something major or a lot of little things, we might just forego the whole 4-point inspection altogether and say, hey, look, let's not even bother doing this inspection. We'll tell you on your standard inspection what repairs, upgrades need to be made, and we'll worry about doing that inspection later. So I'm not even going to do it if there's a big laundry list of things that need to be corrected. I'm going to tell you, hey, look, it's not going to do you any good. We'll tell you on your standard inspection, what needs to be corrected. And then once those things are fixed, then we'll worry about doing that inspection for insurance.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's kind of very nice.
Right.
Saving the buyer some extra cash.
Absolutely. I mean, there's all kinds of inspectors out there that'll charge you for an inspection that doesn't do you any good. They know it's not going to do you any good because it fails, but they charge you anyway. That's silly. I got to sleep well at night. So we do right by our clients for sure.
So I get this question sometimes quite often from a buyer. What is a 4-point?
So a 4-point inspection is an inspection that's required by most insurance companies throughout Florida, especially if your house isn't fairly new. It shows them that the house is insurable. That's an inspection of the roof, electric, plumbing, and air conditioning. So obviously those 4 areas we're inspecting those areas anyway for your buyer's inspection. But this is something that it's a separate inspection, a separate report. They're looking for make, model, serial number, the building code that was used when that stuff was last updated, which requires a permit search. They want specific photos and a standard report needs to be completed. So it's separate from your standard home inspection. But it's in some ways it's more detailed because they want this specific form completed. But it is absolutely 100% not a home inspection. It's an inspection for the insurance company. It's not only is it just roof, electric, plumbing, and AC, but it's not very thorough in that they don't want to know all the dirty little details about the roof, electric, plumbing, and AC. They just want to know, hey, is it insurable? So I've seen a little bit of a trend lately where clients are calling and say, hey, I'm buying a house. I need a 4-point. No. You're buying a house. You need a home inspection. If you're getting insurance, you also need a 4-point inspection. A 4-point is not a home inspection. And a lot of these buyers, they're hearing this from the realtor, which, if a realtor recommends a 4-point inspection for a buyer in lieu of a home inspection instead of in addition to a home inspection, you're not doing your client any service.
Absolutely not. Definitely. Oh, that's well, like you said, there's you could be licensed, but it doesn't matter
Right. Exactly.
if you know what you're doing.
Right.
Um, do you have a specific list of 6 things I wish all realtors knew? Can you share the most crucial one?
I do. And I don't know. I meet with realtors on a regular basis. From time to time, I introduce myself to an entire team and that kind of thing. And so that's why I put this list together. It's hard to pick one. It really is. But I would say if I had to pick one of the 6 things that I wish
You
every
can give me
realtor
more
knew,
than one if you want.
I'm going to give you the one I think is most important, and that is lead your clients, right? Too many realtors kowtow to whatever their client wants, or even worse, not even their client, right? I get buyer's agents all the time who say, oh, can we do that inspection Thursday at 4:30 p.m. because the seller's tenant, what? The seller's tenant, who cares what the seller's tenant wants? Are you serious about selling the house or what? You know what I mean? So this whole idea, I mean, most landlords have a clause in the rental agreement that says I can show up with 24 hours notice and, that kind of thing. So, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you barge in when they're having dinner or whatever, but to say that, hey, we're going to do an inspection, Saturday at 4 p.m. or something silly, like, I'm sorry. Home inspectors have lives too, outside of normal business hours. It gets a little ridiculous sometimes. So, or I had one just the other day where the client wanted to, a lot of times we have to save people from themselves, right? And the client wanted to do a handful of inspections that they read about, on the internet or whatever. And I tried to explain to him that, look, I'm happy to take your money if you really want to, but you don't need these inspections. You don't need a roof certification in addition to a 4-point inspection, because the 4-point covers the roof. Everything that's on a roof
Mhm.
certification is included in the 4-point inspection. Um,
Mhm.
there was a couple of other things too, and I basically tried to explain to these folks that you don't need these other additional ancillary inspections. They're already included in what we're doing in your standard home inspection or in that 4-point inspection, for example. And
Mhm.
the realtor, the realtor said, look, just give them what they want. Um, and I couldn't do it. I had to have a conversation with the client, explain the whole thing to them, and they got it in the end.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, sometimes you got to save folks from themselves. And I think
Sure. Sure.
I got a call also, I would say probably about 45 days ago, maybe something like that, where, this realtor obviously didn't have a conversation with, I mean, I don't care how new you are. The realtor had to have known. They just didn't have this conversation with their buyer. The buyer, after the inspection, said, "Okay, so anything that you guys found, the seller has to fix, right?" What? Like, just automatically, that's what was going to happen. So, yeah, you have to lead your clients. You have to bring them to reality if they're getting a little out in this space, and that's the biggest thing is, as a realtor, keep them informed, let them know what's going on, let them know throughout the process what's
Mhm.
the next
Mhm.
next step in the process, and make sure that they understand. They don't have to be a realtor, they don't have to be a home inspector, but they have to understand throughout the process of buying this house what's happening, what's going to happen, what's next, and if they're outside of reality somewhere, you got to draw them back in.
Sure. Sure. Definitely. Speaking of buyers, you offer a free red flag list for home buyers. What is the biggest warning sign they should look out for during a walkthrough or
Yeah,
during inspection?
I would say the biggest one. So yeah, what we do is, if a client is going to look at houses, look at homes, and they give me an address of one that they're particularly interested in, or two or three, whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
Obviously we don't want them to try to do home inspections during the showing, right? But I can give you a
Right.
handful of things to look for specific to that address, based on how old it is, based on where it's at in Florida, based on who the
Mhm.
builder was, based on the community, and that kind of thing. So give me an address. I'll give you a handful of red flag things to look for. I would say the biggest easy one that a lot of people probably overlook, um, or think that is no big deal, is, when I say this, I'm not talking about imperfections in the paint, but if you can clearly see that there were paint touch-ups,
Mm.
um, that aren't quite right or whatever, that's a sign. Like, if you repaint the room, you repaint the room, right? But if you're just doing touch-ups,
Sure.
now if we're talking about little tiny things, because like they had a nail where they hung a painting, okay, whatever.
Right.
But if you're
Right.
talking about paint touch-ups where it looks like they might be covering something up, to
Hmm.
me, that's a big red
Close to the
flag.
ceiling,
Right. Those kinds of things.
around the window.
Then you got to ask yourself, well, what other things might they not be disclosing? What other
Hmm.
things might they be covering up or hiding? You know,
Hmm.
um, if it's something that they clearly did so that it didn't look as bad while they were living there, okay. But if it's new paint, if it's just a cover
Hmm.
up, if it's something that looks like they might be trying to hide something, then that's a major red flag, because there could be even more things elsewhere, you know. So I would say that's probably one of the things that I look for. Or the other thing is, if the house has a pool and they have a hose in the pool and it's got a little timer on it, that's a red flag too. But there's lots
Hmm.
of little things, but I would say the paint is probably the biggest one. It's easy to look for, without doing a home inspection during a showing. It's something that you can notice, you can point out, you can see, and it could mean, bigger problems. You should look a little closer.
Gotcha. Um, would you, um, well, I know you go above and beyond in a particular standard inspection. Would you be using like a moisture reader and stuff like that to see if there's moisture behind that wall, if that's what they're trying to cover up, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Moisture meters are imperative. The infrared cameras is huge. It doesn't give us X-ray vision like a lot of folks think. But it does pick up differences in temperature. So we use it to find things like moisture, gaps in insulation, loss of conditioned air, overheating breakers, those kinds of things. So, both of those tools, the moisture meter and infrared camera, are absolutely imperative during a home inspection because it allows you to see things you can't see with your naked eye, and determine if that's something, we're talking about imperfections in the paint. Did they cover up a stain? Is it an old stain? Is it an active leak? That kind of thing.
Yep. So you focus a lot on traditional home buyers, but who else in the market strongly needs to utilize a property inspection?
I would say the two biggest folks out there, or types of people out there that should be getting home inspections and aren't, are landlords, especially if they're outside of Florida. There's every time a renter leaves, when one leaves or before one comes in, you should have the place inspected. The other folks, I would say that we've got a handful of property management companies, homeowners associations, and they require of their unit owners key. How do I say this? That they require a fairly basic inspection of key components to make sure that if there's an issue, it gets corrected before it does damage to the other units in the building. For example, your AC system, if you got condensation problems, your roof, if you got roof leaks. And so some of these HOAs and property management companies, they have this inspection done annually. Some of them it's every 3 years. And that's something that is absolutely, because it only gets worse if the problem, especially if you're dealing with a snowbird that's gone 6 months. You have a condensation problem or moisture intrusion from anywhere, from condensation, plumbing, roof leak, whatever, and it starts to affect the other units in the building, and you're in Michigan,
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah, that's probably one of those inspections that a lot of people don't think about, that kind of thing. But if you do that on a regular basis, you'll sleep well at night, and you can avoid major problems by catching something early.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, actually, one of my past clients, they bought a condo on the first floor, and above them, the lady, I believe she was renting out her unit or it was vacant, and the hot water tank um, messed up. I don't know if it like, I can't remember the exact story and stuff like that, but I think it busted, and
That's 40
they're
gallons. Right.
snowbirds, and they weren't down, and when they got down, it was not a good pretty sight.
Yeah.
Their whole condo had to be gutted, and it was, I mean, luckily, there was insurance involved and everything, but they were so they were so upset and bummed and everything, and because they collected a lot of antiques, and that was their big thing, and so all of it had to be just tossed and
Oh,
stuff.
that's
So,
heartbreaking.
but yeah, not a fun sight to come to discover either. So
Yeah, right.
that's
You're coming
probably a
down
good
thinking you're gonna drop your stuff off, grab your beach gear, and run to the beach, and then oh no, you
Right.
missed the deal.
Yeah, it was definitely not a fun process. And it took a long time to get it all renovated and everything. So, um, since your team also handles commercial and vacant lots or vacant land, what unique challenges do those types of Southwest Florida properties present?
Well, commercial property is actually in some ways it's easier. We don't, and most of the time when you're talking about commercial property, the buyers aren't real worried about scuffs in the baseboards, imperfections in the paint, aesthetic issues, that kind of stuff. So in a way, it can be a little easier. We don't do things like kitchen appliances in a restaurant, right? So in those scenarios, we're inspecting the the building itself, roof, electric, plumbing, air conditioning, that those kinds of things, floors, walls, ceilings, doors, windows. But we're not inspecting the business um, equipment, right? So we've done everything from printing companies to restaurants to schools and in those cases we're inspecting the building, so they're bigger and there's usually a lot more
Mhm.
space and those kinds of things, but in a way it's easier because we're not doing all the little minor imperfections and aesthetic issues and that kind of thing. With land, a lot of inspectors have absolutely no idea what to look for when it comes to land. What we do there is we're first, what we don't do is like zoning. We don't do uh, a review of your plans or any of that kind of thing, but we inspect the property uh, for buildability, right? So if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to buy this lot, I'm going to build a house on it, can you? And what's it going to take, right? So
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
look at things that you might not consider when you're looking at a lot, like noise and light pollution from nearby other businesses or a ball field or those kinds of things. We look for how does that lot sit compared to the land around it and the street? Are you going to need to add an absolute ton of fill dirt before you can build anything? And we look at other things that might restrict you from building. For example, if there's a waterway, you have to have a setback. If there's endangered animals, a lot of people don't think about
Mhm.
that, especially here in Southwest
Mhm.
Florida. You've got gopher tortoises, besides bald eagles, you've got gopher tortoises, you've got burrowing
Right.
owls. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
all kinds
Mhm.
of endangered animals that are going to keep you from building. So we do an
Mhm.
inspection for those kinds of things, and then also, any kind of toxic, chemicals or materials that might be there. Um, so there's different things like that we look for, where a lot of folks don't even think about getting it inspected, but once you buy it and then discover it, well, now what? Now you just got to turn around and sell
Right.
it again because you're not going to be able to build on it. So would have been
Right.
nice to spend a couple of bucks and find that out before you bought it.
Right. Right. No, that's a good idea. Um, Looking ahead, what is the smartest buyer moves can make today to protect their home's future condition and value?
I would say maintenance, and especially
Mhm.
the air conditioner, right? I mean,
Mhm.
every single house we go in, just about, not all of them, but just about every single house we inspect, there's a sticker on the AC system and it says, last serviced 3 years ago or 4 years ago, or there's no sticker there at all.
Right.
Some folks are a lot better now than I would say
Mhm.
when I first started 17 years ago. It seemed like every single filter I pulled out was dirty. I mean, every single one of them.
Mhm.
There are now it does seem like folks are better about that than they were years ago.
Mhm. Mhm.
Replacing the air filter is key, but that's not all you do to maintain your AC system. You've got to have it serviced and inspected, at least once every 2, 3 years. But what most Floridians do is they wait till they have a problem and then they call somebody. Uh,
Right.
and
That's
certainly,
right.
yeah, exactly. Now you've got an 80-degree house. It's definitely not fun. And it's probably going to cost you a little bit more than if you just had
Mhm.
it maintained and serviced on a regular basis. So I would say you're buying a house, you want to protect that investment. That's the single most important thing, is maintain everything throughout the house, but most importantly, especially in Florida, your AC system.
Yeah, especially a lot of snowbirds that don't realize that we utilize our AC 24/7,
Oh,
365 days out of the year, typically.
exactly.
You're probably using your AC more than you're probably using your car. So if you take your car for a tune up, you should be doing that for your AC as well.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I've been quoted as saying that the AC is going to be one of the top two things that I miss if we ever experience a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, oh boy. We all love to be cool in our homes, that's for
Exactly.
sure, especially here. It's not fun to be a hot box.
No, not at all.
Definitely not. And I love being warm. That's why I moved down here, but
Right.
it's not fun. It's
Right.
not fun
Exactly.
not having AC.
Oh, I'm Floridian through and through, but I also use air conditioning. You know.
Exactly. We're not in the 1800s. Nope. Mm-mm. I don't know how they did that. I really have no idea how they lived here. How do you see the home inspection industry evolving, and what future trends should Southwest Florida homeowners prepare for now?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say how I hope to see the industry evolve is a lot of these one-man show home inspection companies um, fall by the wayside. A lot of these folks, they have no oversight. You know, I'm not sure who said it, but I'm sure you've heard it before. Um, Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect
Hmm.
practice makes perfect. And too many of these home inspectors are doing things wrong or incomplete, and they continue to do it that way. And they never, until somebody says, hey, you're doing this wrong, they don't even know. Um,
Right.
so that's the thing. I mean, we're a multi-inspector firm. Um, a lot of our procedures were established by myself with the help of two different certified building contractors. Um, and we continue to do a ridiculous amount of research. One of
Hmm.
the things that when it comes to experience, my guys have however many years of experience they've got doing home inspections, but I would say that that's compounded and multiplied because beyond the state standard for continuing education, beyond the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors requirement for continuing education, we have our own additional continuing education where basically anytime any one of us in all 36 counties runs into something new, strange, different, weird, funky that we haven't seen before, we share it with the group. And so
That's good.
you're learning not only from the things that you see and do, but also
Hmm.
all the other inspectors in the company. We feed off each other. We learn from each other. And so that's huge. So one of the things I hope to see in the future for this industry is some of these folks that are doing this as a side hustle, doing
Yeah.
this, part-time or semi-retired. I hope they just go ahead and retire or,
Hmm.
get together with a company that has procedures and systems in place to make sure that the job is getting done completely and properly and the right way. Um,
Yeah.
which I guess is the same as properly, but but yeah, that you've got to have systems in place and not just one guy's idea of this is how we do it, because
Yeah.
oftentimes it's not correct.
That's awesome. That's definitely. And how many guys do you have working with you?
Enough to cover 36 counties.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
when
a
I
lot.
say that, there's not 36 of us. We have, big territory, and they all kind of overlap a little bit too, right? So if I've got
Yeah.
an inspector who's out for whatever reason, sick, vacation, or something like that, or if we just plain get ridiculously busy, um,
Hmm.
then, I can bring in somebody like, for example, in Cape Coral, there's myself. I've got an inspector who lives in Lehigh, got an inspector who lives in Port Charlotte. Um, we can get it covered fairly
Sure.
quickly. I can normally have an inspector on site within a day or two. And if somebody gets a little busy, then we bring in the guy from, further up north or further southwest, whatever. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, in this area in Southwest Florida, Lee, Collier, Charlotte County, we've got three inspectors. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, we've got folks all over the place: Orlando, Tampa, Daytona, um, Miami, Lauderdale, all over Florida. Like I said, the 36 counties is basically Gainesville to Daytona and south, except the Keys, and eventually we'll get to Jacksonville and the Panhandle. We're just not there yet. Toughest part about this
Gotcha.
business is finding good folks, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that for sure. So, hey, tell me about Coastal Dance Company.
It's my daughter's company. I'm a
Oh,
proud dad of
nice.
3. My daughter owns Coastal Dance Company. They just had their annual recital. It's a mobile dance company, so she doesn't have a studio. She has several parks and recreation, daycares, schools where she and her other teachers that work for her teach dance, and they do everything from tap, jazz, acro, ballet. But yeah, she just recently had her recital, and this is the first time she's got 300 give or take dancers. This is the first time it was big enough to where she said, based on last year where it got kind of long, she said this year we're going to have 2 shows. So it's a growing company. We're super proud of her. She's been dancing since she was like 18 months old, and so yeah, now she's running this dance company, and it's amazing. The kids are great, and she does a great job with it.
That's awesome. So, and that's local here in Lee County,
Correct.
Rise area.
Yep.
Nice. Very cool. And tell me about SoFlo Shark Charters.
That's my son's company.
Nice.
Super proud of him as well. He just graduated from Rollins College. Both my son and daughter, my older daughter and son, are working on their master's degree. And then I have a 9-year-old as well who is not quite there yet, but just about, it seems sometimes. But yeah, SoFlo Shark Charters is a shark fishing company. They do shark fishing from shore, so they're not out on boats. They do it from shore, and it's super exciting, super cool. I want to say the most recent big guy they caught was an 8-foot tiger shark, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, if you check out either one of those companies, my son, my daughter, they have websites, they have Facebook. You can take a look at what they're doing, and you can see why I'm a proud dad for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. I don't know if I would do the shark from the shore.
It's not for everybody.
Just maybe from a boat. I don't know from the shore. That sounds a little scarier. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I mean, we have. When is it Shark Week? Is Shark Week coming up? Is it?
No, it's been a little while because he did a little thing for Shark Week, but I'm not sure when it is, what time of year exactly.
Yeah.
It's been, I want to say it's probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago, something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, either way, I'll stick to the land and no fishing for shark. But they are cool. That's very, very awesome, and I can definitely see why you're a proud dad. So wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast, Todd. I enjoyed our conversation and everything. So until next time, you take care. That's a wrap on today's episode of Real Hits of Real Estate. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a beat. Join the conversation on social media and let me know what topics you love covered. Stay tuned for more expert advice and local finds coming your way. I'm Heather Hitz with RE/MAX Realty Group, and whether you're buying, selling, or simply planning your next chapter, I'm here to help you make your next move your best move. Until then, make it a Hitz experience.